Hey there boys and girls, Lucky here and welcome back to another CSGO video. Today with another episode of Noob the Pro, a series that should help you get better at Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Today we're talking about game mechanics and how they might cause some inconsistencies in your gameplay. As you all know, Noob the Pro is a two-part series, meaning on Mondays you always get a big tutorial/guide video like this one, and then on Tuesday I'll be streaming and doing some live teaching, answering your guys' question. Also, if you want to skip the intro, there are always timestamps in the description down below. So I'd say, let's get right into it. Alrighty, now let's talk about game mechanics that might cause some inconsistencies in your gameplay while playing Counter-Strike Global Offensive. So I already talked about a couple of them in previous Noob to Pro episodes. However, since many of you guys still didn't understand them or, well, are still confused about how they work since they aren't very obvious to be honest, and most of them only really come to shine once you use a couple of console commands, I can see how this is still causing some issues for many people or players. Now, something that you have to keep in mind is when you're trying to replicate this episode, you need two console commands, and those are very important. So the first one that you'll need is, if we go down here, cl_weapon_debug_show_accuracy 2. That's the first one that you need. Now we also have another command that's also very important, so if you just get that one up, and that one is for the weapon spread right here. This one would be weapon_debug_spread_show1. So those two commands will also be put down in the description below, so you can check them out and use them in-game as well. And I'd say, let's get right into it now. Alrighty, so we're starting out with the first one of the two, which is the accuracy command, so the one ending with A2 actually. Just hit enter, and you can see that as soon as we're shooting, you get a weird circle like that. So now let me really quickly explain. So the line that you can see right here is basically exactly where you aimed, right here in the middle. And then you of course can see where the bullet did actually land. Now the thing with that is, again, if we're shooting, like right here for example, we can see that we shot straight in the middle right here, but the bullet did land right here, all the way offset to this point. And the circle of course is indicating the spread of the weapon. Now, this is very important to know. There's basically no weapon in CSGO that doesn't have like any spread. The only real super accurate weapons are, for example, the SG and the AUX. So if we're firing them, you can see that the spread is pretty tight actually, and if we're going scoped like that, it should become even better, especially while crouched. So if we just fly over here, you can see it is straight on, like the bullet decal is probably the same size as the circle is. Now, many weapons, such as the AK, which is usually your go-to gun, do actually have quite a bit of spread. So again, if we just compare it against this wall right here, just fire, and again I showed this before, the bullet can land anywhere in between here. So in my case I actually made my crosshair gap the same size as the spread of the AK, so that I always know as long as I'm covering the enemy, I can still hit him. Now again, if you're crouching down like this, and then standing up, you can see that the crouch spread is a little smaller than the normal one. Now the biggest issue that people seem to have is that they do not understand, and I talked about this before, that even the AWP has quite a large amount of spread for a scoped weapon. So if we're just going in scoped and firing, you see, oh well, that's not too bad, looks pretty good. That's, well, a distance you could encounter with an AWP, but usually you got like very kind of long range-ish scenarios. So maybe you're right here in connector, you're just waiting for a guy to peek right there, and then we're firing like this. And you can see this is quite a bit of spread for a scoped weapon. We're aiming right here, and this is where the bullet did land. Of course, it's only offset by probably one decal in size, but if you compare this to like a player model, and we just fly back, it is very much possible that if you're not completely right on the target, like this right here, so not completely center on mass like this, of course then you're hitting. But if you're like hitting the arm or the leg or something like that, it might very well be that if you're not completely right in center of mass, that the bullet is actually going to deviate to the side off right here, even though you're still hitting target. In this case, we actually did hit him, since we can see the bullet was slightly offset to the right, which again was in our favor. So even the AWP, even while being scoped and crouched down, still does have spread, meaning that if you're in extreme longer scenarios, you can still miss shots. Again, same goes for pretty much every other weapon in the game. Like right here, of course the Glock also has spread. We're aiming right in the middle, and the bullet did land right here. The first shot accuracy is not like it was back in 1.6 with the magic bullet. That's why you see like people scrolling back to the knife, because it would reset your bullet to 100% accuracy. It's not like that in CS. The bullet can land anywhere within the circle, and it's a random number generator. This means it's usually better to not go for one-taps like Scream, because this can actually hinder you very much. Instead of going for like a small burst like that, will actually cover more of the size of the circle, as you can see right here, and giving you a higher chance of actually hitting them while still retaining lots of accuracy. So there's that about spread, so keep that in mind. Now let's move over to the next one. Alrighty, now let's talk about the next thing, which is bullet deviation. It's pretty much the same as spread, but it's basically calculated differently. So if you're spraying with a weapon, for example, like the AK right here, you're just firing away, you can see that the circles are becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So if we compare the first one right here to the last one up there, it's probably like 3 or 4 times in size. And as you can see, again, if we're just firing right here, and then for the last bullet, we're just pulling it over to the side like that. We did aim right here, and the bullet landed over there. And of course, for the first shot, we're a lot more accurate. So this is basically another indicator that if you're a very spray-heavy player, you really should consider for how long you're going to spray, because the longer you're spraying, the more deviation you'll be getting. So as you were able to see, we're somewhere aiming right here. And again, if we compare this to a player model, and this is like a usual... Like, this is actually pretty much close range for the most part. But, like, the bullet can deviate a lot. So again, just pulling it over right here. You can see, if we're aiming right at him, it could just be all on this side over here. Of course, it could also hit the head on this side, but if we're not center of mass, or even if we are, the circle can still be big enough to go all around it. So this means, again, if you spray for a prolonged period of time all the way to the end of the spray pattern, you really have to consider that and don't go for headshots anymore. Go for center of mass, only do it when up close, otherwise the deviation of the bullet will really mess you over. Alrighty, now let's move on to our next point. Once again, bring up the console like this, and this time around you want to put in our other command, which is, as you can see right here, weapon debug spread show 1, just like this. Hit enter, and for some of you it might look like this, and this is because you got a static crosshair, so you use something like, for example, CL_crosshair style 2, and then again hit enter, and it is moving and showing your weapon spread in real time, while moving, and again being crouched down, stuff like that. Now let's talk about accuracy reset, and that's usually when I tell people that they're spamming their gun too much. So for pistols it's very obvious, because they're not a fully automatic weapon like the AK or the M4. So if we have a Glock like this, you can see the spread right here isn't too bad. Like at this range we can probably hit his head very effectively, and we probably also get a one-hit headshot in the pistol round up close like this. So again, if we fire, you can see it's expanding and getting bigger. You see, I was basically only shooting as soon as I got my accuracy back. Now, of course, when you're spraying your pistol, and again, this is mostly common knowledge, you're basically shooting while the square is still expanded, meaning that the bullets can again land anywhere within that regarding a certain like fixed spray pattern kind of ish. It's still RNG, but it goes up at least for the most part like that. And again, this is not as accurate as if we're doing this. Now, this also applies for fully automatic weapons, which many people do not seem to get. So if you're tapping away like this, you can see, even though I'm tapping very slowly, I'm mostly just having like a bigger square most of the time. So again, if we're just firing like even faster, the spray pattern starts to kick in. So even if you're not holding down mouse 1, you're still kind of deviating off the spray pattern if you're firing too fast. So that's actually a fixed value. You can see the knife is actually super accurate, and it's probably your best friend when it comes to accuracy. Now anyhow, as we can see, when we're firing too fast, we're not getting the best out of it. So it is very important that you actually get down the rhythm of your weapon. Only when you're knowing the rhythm, you can effectively tap or burst like that to be accurate. Otherwise, you're just going to be all over the place like that. Something that is a big issue for many people is this gun right here, the Desert Eagle. Now, many people, the only real issue that they're having, you can see, it is super accurate. It's even more accurate than the AK. So, again, right here, AK, deagle. It's more accurate. It's better in accuracy. And many people are always like, oh my god, the deagle is just so inaccurate. It's not. It's actually very accurate. Now, the thing you have to keep in mind, when you're firing it, you get a lot of kick, lots of recoil, and you can see it's also deviating quite a bit. And you see, it took quite an amount of time, so let's actually get closer to a darker spot so you can see it a little easier. If we're firing, you see we got 100% accuracy now, and watch the timer, I'll be shooting at exactly 50 seconds, so 2, 1, and go. And now, after 3 seconds only, it has regained 100% accuracy, meaning that if you're firing the deagle too fast, it's of course inaccurate, because it just has an extremely long time until the accuracy reset kicks in. And again, in total 3 seconds. So if you're firing patiently, or at least waiting, because like probably after 1 second you already got 80% accuracy back, you can fire very accurately. However, if you're doing like that, that's not how you're going to fire like any accurate shots with a deagle. And again, don't get me started on jumping, but that's actually something for the next point, so let's get right into that as well. Alrighty, so now let's talk about the last part that will probably cause some inconsistencies in your gameplay, and that is movement inaccuracy. Also commonly referred to as a problem with stutter stepping, and I'm literally getting this question every video, every stream, pretty much every time everyone sees me on the street. How does stutter stepping work, and why do I have to do it? So this will be the last time that I'm going to explain it to you based on the game's mechanics. So as you can see, we're shift walking right now. So as soon as we're accelerating, so getting faster than a certain velocity, and again you can show the velocity by hitting CL and then underscore and then show +1 like that. You can see in the top right corner how fast you're moving. And your movement, your velocities, your movement speed is basically determining how accurate you're firing while moving, or while in your current state, kind of. So when we're still, of course, very accurate, minus the spread of the weapon, of course. Then as soon as we're moving, for example right here, while shift walking, we get quite a large of spread. But again, you can see when we're starting to move, we're still accurate, since we're staying below a certain speed threshold. So it's usually, as long as you're staying below 35 velocity, you're still gonna be accurate. And in terms of crouching right here, you're always gonna be accurate while crouching. That's just a benefit of crouching altogether, and you can see they're completely accurate shots right here. Now, again, stutter stepping for the 100th time now is just you move into one direction and then to the other one, and you're hitting the opposite direction key. So when I'm holding down D, you tap A like this. You let go of D right here and then tap A immediately, or run into wall. This basically has the same effect, you can see. Like that. If you're bad at stutter stepping, just use a wall, and you can basically make use of that. And like this, you can get your accuracy back immediately and be accurate again while firing. Now, when you're AD spamming and be hard to hit like that, you can also see we're moving, we're kind of irritating the enemy, but we're still accurate while doing so. So this is another benefit. It's just all about being aware of how fast you're moving currently, and again, jumping, even when you're coming down, you see, still punishing you a lot. That's why I often also see like AWP guys, they're jumping around, and then like they're trying to fire like that. It still takes a while. Like that's also why many AWP shots are missing. You gotta crouch down to make it even smaller, like that, and then crouch to make it smaller, and then you gotta wait a split second. Like the AWP is taking some time when you scope in like that. Otherwise you're not gonna hit anything. It's taking time, you see? That's just basically how it goes. So that's probably the last thing that is causing inconsistencies. Like many people are talking about the hit reg being a problem. And to be fair, the biggest issue probably is like lag compensation, just people having back ping and stuff like that. But in general, hit reg is already pretty good. It's not perfect by any means, but most issues I see when people are talking about broken hit reg is usually just they were still moving while shooting, or firing too fast, or they weren't like taking care of any of their weapon spread deviation, or moving inaccuracy. So I hope this video was kind of helpful. I know most of the things already has been covered in a couple of the other episodes, but I felt like a dedicated episode will help a couple of you guys, since it still apparently was kind of hard to understand, and I really hope that this, for the last time, will explain how it's actually working, just from a game mechanics point of view. So yeah, I think it's pretty much all for now. I hope you enjoyed the video, and luckySkillFaker out.